Welcome back, my happy Crumpin' Wargamers, to Happy Crumpin' Wargaming. Today, we are going to be talking about an exceptionally important subject when it comes to learning the game of Warhammer 40,000. I've gotten some messages from some dear friends and some from my members and other people who I value a lot, and they have been saying that with all the constant new releases of indexes, codexes, balanced data slates, people have been feeling a little bit overwhelmed in the game of Warhammer 40,000. And I understand this, but I believe it's probably a false feeling of being overwhelmed. Typically, what I find most people are doing is they are not learning the game correctly, and I'm going to help you break this down really, really quick so that you no longer have to feel overwhelmed by this game, and that if you wanted to pick up a new index or a new codex, you're going to be able to do it swiftly, accurately, without that feeling of dread and overwhelmingness, which really plagues a lot of people. But before we get started, make sure to hop over to the Happy Crumpin' Wargaming Discord, where we discuss subjects like this all day, every single day, and we do tons of high-level tactics for all of you people. If you join the members side, that's where we go a lot more in-depth into all of the little details. It is $4 a month, and that $4 a month means the world to me because I put in all my effort to make you guys better players and help you enjoy this game more, and you guys supporting me just means the world, so I appreciate all of my members very, very greatly, and I can't wait to see everyone else in the Discord. Okay. Let's just start right into this subject here. We have all these codexes, we have all these indexes, and it can be super, super overwhelming. And one of the big problems that we have is we've got all these rules, exceptions, and these rule qualifiers. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Well, you, in the movement phase, get to move, but you can't ever move in the shooting phase, and you can't ever move in any other time except for the charge phase when you make a charge. And if you decide to do an assault move, then you can move an extra d6 in addition to your normal move, but then you can't shoot. But if you have a rule that says assault, suddenly you can shoot. So you see how, like, every single time there's a rule, there's going to be an exception to the rule, and then there's going to be little qualifiers. So, for example, you can only ever shoot in the shooting phase, unless you do an Overwatch, in which case you can shoot in the movement phase, or even in the charge phase, in your opponent's phase even. So there's always these little qualifiers, these little exceptions, and it can get very, very overwhelming. The bottom line is, in the game of Warhammer 40,000, this is a complicated game. And honestly, that's why we love it. It is not a simple game. There is so much amazing room for skill expression in this game. The big problem that I find with a lot of players, or a big issue I find with a lot of players, I don't want to call it a problem, but it is a bit of an issue, is people don't know the rules. And honestly, learning the rules is not hard. What I find is like 90% of all of my coaching clients or my members who are struggling, they've never read the core rules, and the core rules are free. Seriously, just take an hour total, honestly, and you can do it 3 times over the course of a week. Read the rules 3 times. It'll take you 20 minutes each time. You'll know the rules. Yeah, okay, you'll have to look up something every now and then. I have to look things up every now and then. And so does every other great player or YouTuber. Everyone always has to look some things up. But if you've read those core rules 3 times, you'll know the freaking rules. And then it's going to be much easier to learn all the qualifiers and all the exceptions. You're not going to struggle. So in all reality, everyone, the first step that you have to take if you're feeling overwhelmed is just read the rules, because I would be willing to bet you haven't. All right, well, let's go on and move on. We're actually going to talk about learning the codex. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down very simply, all the steps that you need to learn a new army, learn a new codex, and I'm going to give you examples of how I do it so that you guys can kind of follow along. So let's start right into it. First thing that you want to do is you want to, if you're learning a new army or a new index or a new detachment or whatever, you want to start with something that is similar-ish. All armies have their nuances and differences, but you want to start with something that has a relatively similar playstyle. Now, if you want to go to something that's dramatically different, feel free, please, but it's not going to be easy, and there's no super easy way to do that, right? So I'm breaking it down so that you guys can understand how to play faster, better, and have more fun in the game. So if I am an orc player, which I am, and I want to learn a new army, well, it makes sense that I would probably want to go learn something like Custodes, or World Eaters, or Black Templars. Why do you ask? Well, because these are all very melee-centric, heavy pressure lists. So they have a similar play style, even though there are a massive amount of dramatic differences. For example, World Eaters have so many different rules and so many different data sheets and abilities than orcs do. Orcs have way different datasheet abilities, way different rules than World Eaters, but the general theme of the armies is we're going to go forward and we're going to freaking crump. So you'll notice this in a theme with what a lot of people play. There will be similar-ish ways to play. So for example, Orcs and World Eaters are very similar. Necrons, and I would argue, Guard are very similar. Now, is there a difference there? Yes, there is. One of the main differences being that your Guard have a lot of indirect fire where your Necrons do not. However, both of these armies are very board state control armies that you typically have to come to, which is a big problem. So there is actual similarities in their playstyle, even though they're clearly not the same army. Another good example would be Chaos Space Marines and Space Marines. There's a lot of flexible ways to run these two armies, but in all reality, they actually have similar styles. Now, you would easily be able to say that Chaos Space Marines tend to have more of a melee-centric than the normal Space Marines, but there are ways to build both armies that really complement each other's playstyles. So you'll find your people tend to play armies that are similar. A good example of armies that are not similar playstyles would be Custodes and Genestealer Cults. This was actually the very first shift I made. I went from Genestealer Cults to Custodes. That was the first change I made, and holy crap, that was a different army. And it's not the only way to do things, guys, but this is the easiest way to start. So let's start with an army that is similar-ish. So I'm going to use, for the example of while I'm teaching you guys how to do this, I'm going to use me learning World Eaters, because I recently went through this because for one of our scrims for the WTC, one of our scrimmage matches, my captain asked me to play World Eaters, which I had never done, but I had to learn it on the fly, so I had to learn it quickly, so I figured this is a good way for me to help you guys see how I learn new armies, and maybe that's going to be very useful for you. So the very first thing I do is I pull up the World Eaters Index Codex. I don't go watch games. Well, I mean, I've seen World Eaters play, so I have a general knowledge, but well, let's ignore that. My first step is not to go watch Anthony Vanilla play World Eaters, even though he's a fantastic player at World Eaters, and you can learn a lot from him. My first step is I'm going to go read the stratagems, I'm going to read the army rule, and I'm going to read all of the enhancements. So I'm going to, okay, these are the strats that I have access to. This is the army rule, so the Blessings of Khorne rule in this situation. And then I also will have all of the enhancements. Okay, then I read it again. Because once you've read it, you can realize, okay, this is kind of cool, this is kind of cool, this kind of sucks. And then you read it again, you go, oh, actually, this maybe doesn't suck, but I can see how it might be an edge case scenario, right? And you go, okay, cool. So you've read the stratagems, army rules, and the enhancements twice. Now, the next thing that you do is you read all the data sheets, and you're going to just put a little notation down which ones are interesting to you. We're not optimizing the list yet. We're just learning the codex, and that's okay. Then after you read all the data sheets through once, you're going to go read all the enhancements and all the strats again. And what I want you really, really specifically think about now, because now that you've read what some of the characters do, I want you to think about which characters do these enhancements go upon, and these stratagems, which units are these really, really useful for? And then we're going to read the data sheets one more time. All of that, so read the stratagems, army rule enhancements, do that twice in a row, read all the data sheets, read the enhancement strats again, and then read the data sheets one more time. That's 5 read-throughs. That honestly doesn't take you 20 minutes. People think that, that takes, forever. I can't. Listen, every single time you play this game, you are dedicating yourself to minimum 3 hours. If it takes you 20 minutes to get an initial impression of how your army works, it's worth it. 20 minutes is not that bad a time investment to learn how your army works. Okay, so how did I do this when I was running World Eaters? Well, on my first read-through of all the strats and the enhancements and everything, I went, holy crap, the Berserker Glaive looks amazing. It is an enhancement that will add D3 to the attacks and damage of a weapon when they charge, and when your character doesn't charge, it's just +1 to the attacks and +1 to the damage. And then I thought, oh, well, this actually stacks with the World Eaters bonus of +1 attack when they charge, and +1 attack and +1 strength when they charge. It's like, oh, that is actually pretty dang cool. And then when I was looking through the strats, I was like, oh, okay, an auto advance 6, when I get to combine that with the army rule of giving me advance and charges, that's pretty amazing. And it's always very useful when you have multi-wound models to be -1 damage in melee. It's like, okay, cool, those two strats look really, really good. Then when I read through all the data sheets, I'm reading some of the characters, I'm reading through all the normal data sheets, and I looked at 8-bound, I was like, holy crap, 8-bound, they're the best. 8-bound are amazing. I don't really understand the Exalted 8-bound when the 8-bound are cheaper. They've got the damage 3. They are just better. Okay, cool, got it. So then what I did is I read through all the strats again, and I realized, okay, so this Master of Executions, who gives Fight First to my Berserkers, he's probably the guy who gets that Berserker Glaive. I probably don't need to give that to a Demon Prince, seeing as the Demon Prince is really expensive. And then he also gives me the unit Fight First. That's a problem. All right, so now you're starting to track the way that my thought process goes. And then the second time I read through all the data sheets, I go, oh, okay, I understand why Exalted 8-bound are different than 8-bound. They're very different. Exalted 8-bound get Deep Strike. They don't get Scout. But they also have an in-belt Feel No Pain, and they get to force leadership tests to prevent fallbacks. So when I did a little quick math, they move 9, and off of the favorite of Corns, I could get plus 2 inches to move, and I can get an auto advance of 6. So I can get them a guaranteed movement of 11 plus 6 is 17 inches. And then when I combine them with another character, Lord Invocatus, who gives Scout, holy crap, suddenly I can get these guys moving 22 inches in turn 1. And since it's a 6-man unit, if I charge a bunch of units and I don't kill them all, my opponent is going to have to be able to pass a leadership test on each one of those units just to be able to fall back so that he can shoot me. Which means this is, oh my goodness, these Exalted 8-bound are going to be amazing into gun lines. So that was my first step of World Eaters. It took me 20 minutes to get through all that. What's the second step, guys? The second step when you're building and learning a new codex is you have to actually just build your army. Download the app, get your battle scribe, get your new recruit, which I really like new recruit, by the way, guys, to use as your army builder. But there's a lot of different options there. Just build it. And what I want you to do is I want you to just identify how your army works and what are its weaknesses. And I've talked about this in my list building guide, which you need to go back and watch that if you haven't watched it, because it's a super good video. I'm actually really proud of it, teaching you how to actually build your army list. There's a lot more to building army list than most people realize. But what I want you to do is I want you to identify what are the strengths of your army and what are the weaknesses of your army. So like the archetypes. Generally speaking, the archetypes, you have the armies that are going to be, I'm going to kill you. And then you have archetypes that are going to be, hey, I'm just going to get board control. And then there's lots of subcategories between that. And then what I want you to do is get a general feel of what are you scared to play as this army. So basically every single melee army is going to be scared of gun lines because, hey, I can't shoot you and you can just shoot me. Every single gunline army is going to be scared of melee pressure lists because, holy crap, what if they get to me? I can't fight them off. So there's just going to be some natural weaknesses that I want you to identify. So how did I do this with my World Eaters in the second step? So I just built a first list, and the first list included like Angron, 2 10-man Berserker squads. I had Jackals, I had Lord Invocatus, I had the Juggerlord with the favorite of Corn so I could re-roll my blessings, and then I also just filled the rest out with like 3-man 8-bound squads and 2 Rhinos. And honestly, it was a pretty good list. And when I looked at some other lists, I realized, oh, okay, not bad at all. Now I had to identify what works and what are the weaknesses. Well, what works is I'm really, really fast. Like, holy crap, I can get to my opponent turn 1 with my entire freaking army. People who have a lot of screening units, that might be a weakness, but currently we play in a meta where people just want to ignore that melee exists, so they don't take screens. So I don't really care. However, armies that have the fallback and shoot, indirect, that's a problem. I was like, okay, cool. So what I have to do is I have to move into the third step now. In the third step, after you've built your army and you've identified all your strengths, all your weaknesses, what you're scared of and stuff, this is the last step, by the way, guys. You get to play test. So you got to put these on the board and you got to play them. And I don't want you to have feedback yet. Don't go to your experienced friend. Just play the freaking army. After you play the army and you play it in a match, whether you win, lose, irrelevant, what I want you to do is get feedback from a more experienced player. That's going to be your friend down the street. That's going to be your friend at the local LGS. That's going to be me when you hire me as your coach, because I'm a really good coach and I really want to help all of you guys do better. By the way, you can book coaching with my Ko-Fi link, which is down below in the description. Then what I want you to do is after you get your experience from your feedback from the more experienced player and you've done a playtest, I want you to read your index again. Everyone's like, oh, all this reading. Guys, grand total, you've put like 30 minutes of reading into this. It's not that bad. After you read your index, including your stratagems, your enhancements, and your data sheets, I want you to rebuild the list and play again. Now, your list the second time is going to be significantly different, and you're going to get to play this list. So let's go into the World Eaters for the example of what I just went through for the third step. So what I realized is, holy crap, World Eaters have the ability to first turn charge everywhere, but you probably shouldn't always do it. There are some situations where it's a good idea. Many times, though, in turn 1, you just want the threat of the first turn charge to make your opponents deploy like scaredy cats. Then what I realized is I originally thought the auto advance 6 strat was the best, which it's still very good. I thought the -1 damage is the best, which honestly I rarely use that now when I'm playing my World Eaters. But then what I realized is, holy crap, For the Blood God is an amazing strat. And one of my buddies is the one who pointed this out to me. And what that does is when I kill a unit in melee, suddenly I get to roll on the favorite of Corn chart again. So since I can only take 2 blessings at a time, or when I originally roll, I can take advance and charge, and I can take sustained hits. But once I kill a unit, I can roll in the chart again and give my entire army a feel no pain for my opponent's turn when they want to shoot me. And the value there was just immense. And I actually would not have made that connection on my own. So it's really good that I got to talk to a little bit more of an experienced player. I mean, I probably eventually would have realized it, but this accelerated my learning way faster. So having that little feedback from your more experienced friend or whatever is a great way to do it. And if you guys don't have a lot of experienced friends around you, jump over to the Happy Crumping Wargaming Discord, where we have tons of super experienced people who are really good at helping you figure all these things out. If you want even more value, it's the members side of the section. The members only section of the Discord is probably a lot more valuable, even though the free area is also quite good. So then I also realized that Blood Offering gets to negate the need for cultists. So cultists and World Eaters give you sticky objectives. However, if I have a unit that gets killed off of an objective and I spend 1 CP, I can make it sticky. That means I don't really need cultists, even though they're still a good unit. So I'm not ragging on cultists. So I realized I don't need that. Then I also realized I don't need 10-man Berserker squads or Karn. Yeah, Karn has flat 3 damage, but the sheer amount of damage and attacks that coming out of World Eaters, I don't really care about damage reduction all that much. I don't like damage reduction, but I don't care all that much. So I don't really need Karn, and I don't need a 10-man Berserker squad to deliver him or the Master of Executions, because all the damage from the Master of Executions with the Berserker Glaive that we spoke about earlier, and if you want to know more about him, check out the video I just recently did on the top 5 characters in the game. Holy crap, he's the best character in the game. I realized all the damage comes from him. He doesn't need a 10-man squad, especially if I start them in a Rhino. Then I don't have to worry about even getting about the delivery, really. All I got to do is I just got to shoot him out, let him go kill something, and then since he has fights first, you can't charge him, so you have to kill him shooting, and when you shoot his squad, he gets to move. So it's a really good squad, but I really just saved myself 300 points-ish by dropping my 2 10-man Berserker squads into 2 5-man Berserker squads, and I also dropped Karn. So that was a very, very useful thing. Then what I did is I totally dropped my army to 2x5 Berserkers, 1 Master of Executions, and 2 6-man Bricks of Exalted 8-bound. Because now suddenly I had 2 6-man that can scout forward 6 inches, move 11 inches, advance and charge, and they can tie up the entire opponent's army if I need to. And if my opponent's army ever wants to fall back, they have to pass a leadership test. And if just one unit fails into either one of those units, you can't shoot them, which is amazing, and that's so freaking powerful. And then I kept 2 3-man normal 8-bounds because they allow you to reroll ones to win. And I kept Angron, of course, because Angron's freaking amazing. So this was my journey learning World Eaters. After the 3rd step is complete, guys, you're into the fine-tuning of your game area. So you've learned your codex. Now you have to fine-tune and make things better. So right here, you've got half of your army set. This is the second, third, or third build iteration of your army, and you've basically got half of the army set. You know what's good, you know what sucks. So at this stage, what I highly recommend you do is you should not change your list any more than roughly about 200 points at a time. What I think is you typically would, well, at least in my experience, and I'm a pretty fast learner myself, is I need approximately 5 to 10 good games with my army before I really understand its strengths and its weaknesses. What does it do good into? What does it do poorly into? How does this unit operate in this situation versus this situation? When you get 5 to 10 games, that eliminates some of the, oh crap, this unit spiked in one game, and then you overestimate its potential. Or, holy crap, this unit just did nothing in this one game, so you underestimate its potential. So once you get those 5 to 10 games, then you can make big sweeping changes. But in between rounds, I don't want you to really be making more than like 200 points worth of changes to your army list. It takes a long time to get comfortable with your threat ranges, your mathematical averages, and you got to build reasonable expectations of your army in general. Tactical awareness takes a lot of time to develop, but you will develop it. And as you get better at individual armies, learning the next army gets even easier. So I added a little cartoon in here because you guys need tactical awareness. Well, I need tactical awareness. Everyone alive needs tactical awareness. And the Imperial Guard here have great tactical awareness. They know Angron was a big problem for all of them, and they know that he killed Yorick. And they also don't want to have to fight the orcs and Angron at the same time, so he just tells the orcs that Angron killed Yorick, and now the orcs are going to go stomp on Angron for them. So, tactical awareness, guys. Tactical mastery. This is how I like to learn new codexes, new indexes. It makes my life way easier. It's going to make your life way easier. Give it a try. Leave me questions or comments down in the comment section. I respond to all of those. Let me know if this was actually a good, useful video for you. And if it wasn't, let me know why so that I can improve in the future. But anyway, guys, I want to just one more time invite all of you to join the Discord. The members only section is really where the juice is, but we love our free members as well. Once again, a membership is it's $4 a month, but there's a ton of tactical awareness and knowledge. I run workshops for free basically all the time in there, and it's really a great time. We've got a game finder for TTS and lots of support. So if you guys are looking for that or you want to look for coaching, I got the links down below in the description. And if you want the best terrain in the entire freaking business, check out Wayland Yutani. And if you use code Crumping5, you'll get 5% off of your entire order. They are the official sponsor of the WTC. They make all this amazing battle-ready, perfectly competitive terrain, and they get the mats or the portfolios for the ruins, so you don't have to guess like how far is the ruin supposed to stick out. It's super amazing. They also make the freaking best battle mats in the business, so check them out. Anyway, everybody, I love you. Thanks so much for your attention, and we'll see you next time at Happy Crumpin' Wargaming. Bye-bye.